gut support and, take care of those digestive disturbances that we may be having. So today, talking about the gut and how it supports detoxification is really on par with everything that we've been doing up until this point anyway. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, the gut is one of the main detoxification systems in the body. It has a lot of functions on its own anyway, as you know, for digestion and absorption of nutrients. It's really, it's like this tube, right, that runs from one end of us to the other. And it's really that place where we interact in our body with the outside world. So the gut is connected to everything in our body, and it's our connection to that outside world as well. It has its own abilities for detoxification, and it allows, through when it's functioning properly, it prevents a lot of toxins that we may take in from even entering into the rest of our body anyway, right? It's where the digestion and absorption of nutrients takes place. But when our guts are working properly, it prevents a lot of toxins that we may ingest from actually being absorbed and entering into the bloodstream. When our gut barrier, when the lining of the gut is really whole and intact and working the way it should, it also prevents a lot of things from entering into the bloodstream through that. But you probably have heard of something called leaky gut. And that's when our gut lining is compromised. We can get this through inflammation and through eating the wrong kinds of foods and different other conditions in the body. But when we have leaky gut, this barrier, this gut lining is compromised, and it does sometimes allow things to pass through into the bloodstream that normally wouldn't be passing through. So taking care of your gut lining is a really important thing, and it's very key into keeping a lot of those toxins from entering into the body. The gut is also part of the pathway. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes here, guys. That's why I'm looking down. The gut is also part of the pathway that toxins that are prepared to already be leaving through the actions of the liver, like we talked about yesterday, that's part of the pathway that helps these toxins become excreted. So that's another reason why we really want to look after our guts. When the gut works well, the toxins can leave unimpeded. They come out in the stool. A good gut bacteria takes a big role in the detoxification of certain compounds. There's compounds that come in with our foods, like we talked about, like when you're eating processed foods and things with lots of chemicals, or the bad, nasty fats that we don't want to be eaten. But there's also other things in the body, right? When our body is going through different processes, there's byproducts of our metabolism that are also considered toxins. Even though we're making them, they're just a byproduct of our metabolism, and our body has to get rid of those as well. A good example of this, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, is estrogens. Part of our estrogen metabolism in the body occurs in the gut with the microbiome, which is kind of a cool fact. And the microbiome's bacteria act on those extra estrogens that our body doesn't need, and helps to do different chemical reactions with the estrogens that help our body get rid of the extra ones. So a lot of the different symptoms that we can experience, like PMS or PCOS, or all these different extra estrogen problems, can happen when we have an imbalance in the microbiome. So that's another example of something that we consider a toxin. Even though estrogen is something that we need and we use, when we have too much of it, we can get negative effects in the body. So supporting the microbiome can really help the body get rid of all the extra things that it doesn't want, whether it's a processed food that we've taken in that our body doesn't want at all, or it's different byproducts of our own innate metabolism. So looking after the microbiome is super, super important to do. So that's another way the gut bacteria also can support detoxification, and the microbiome and the liver kind of work together as well to get rid of a lot of different toxins. So today we're going to talk about how we can support the gut in its detoxification abilities. So there's a few different ways to support the gut. Basically, prebiotic foods is a huge, huge piece of gut health. So prebiotics are anything that are good microbes in the microbiome like to eat. So prebiotic foods are foods that feed our microbiome, just keeping it really simple. There's lots of different types of prebiotic foods, but some of the ones that are really common and really supportive would be almonds, tomatoes, dairy products. Our microbiome loves good dairy products. Legumes, grains, broccoli, kale, asparagus, apples, bananas, tomatoes, maple syrup, dark chocolate. There's my favorite one popping up again. Honey, potatoes, sweet potatoes, chia seeds, Really, there's so many different prebiotic foods that can support our microbiome. But basically, any whole foods diet has got the prebiotic piece covered. A whole foods diet is loaded with prebiotics. Fiber is a big piece of prebiotics. Doesn't have to be fiber, but fiber is definitely a prebiotic food. So if you're eating a whole foods diet with lots of fruits and vegetables, you're getting lots of fiber and you're feeding your microbiome lots of good fiber and good foods. So your microbiome will be happy. Jerusalem artichokes that we mentioned yesterday, which is a really big liver superstar, that's also a food that's really high in this prebiotic fiber. So it's another thing that's good for us to do is feeding our microbiome with Jerusalem artichokes. Chicory is another prebiotic food that's really high in fiber too. Chicory is often an additive added to a lot of health foods. So even though it's a processed food, if you see something that has added fiber with chicory, it can actually be beneficial for the microbiome. Lots of different foods like that, though, that you can have. What else have we got here? So the next piece after prebiotics would be probiotics. So prebiotics feed the microbiome, and probiotics are actually foods that have extra microbes in it that support our microbiome by kind of bringing up our population of those good, healthy microbes. The one thing about probiotics is once you eat them, these probiotic bacteria, they don't stay in the body. They're just kind of visiting, right? As we eat them, they're passing through the gut. But as they pass through the gut, they have their beneficial effects on the gut and on our bodies. So they're super beneficial. Some good examples of probiotic foods are anything fermented, right? Things like yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, miso, wine, and unpasteurized beer are also fermented foods. Anything like that that's fermented is a good probiotic food and really supports the gut. These transient beneficial bacteria support the gut and support our microbiome that does live inside of us as well. And then another thing we talked about yesterday with the liver function was culinary herbs and spices, right? Things like thyme and oregano, turmeric, ginger, garlic, things like that. These culinary herbs are also amazing for the gut. Aside from the fact that they support the liver in their actions, they also support the gut and they support our digestion. A lot of times, they increase the secretion of digestive juices, things like our enzymes and our hydrochloric acid and things like that. And they even increase our saliva. So when you eat food that has a lot of nice herbs in it, your saliva gets increased in the excretion, and that also supports your digestion. So culinary herbs and spices are a really, really good way to support the gut function as well. What else have I got here for you? The next thing outside of foods then to support the gut is movement. So believe it or not, when we move our bodies, it also helps support our gut action. The digestive system is like one big muscle, right? You've got the tube that runs from one end to the other, but surrounding the tube are layers of circular and longitudinal muscles that kind of squeeze and press and help us mix our food and help us move it down through our system and get the food. And then when it turns into waste products, help that move through our system. So when we move our bodies, that movement also supports the movement of the gut. It stimulates everything to keep moving and kind of flowing and working together the way it's supposed to. So, if you have a sedentary lifestyle, it's really important to try to incorporate a few minutes of movement into your life every day, because that also supports the gut and its movement functions. The next thing too that I want to cover for gut function, the ways to support the gut in detoxification, is some supplements. You can take probiotics as well. Like we discussed earlier, the probiotic foods are one way, but you can also take a probiotic supplement. And the cool thing about probiotic supplements is there are so many out there, and you can get ones that are just pretty gentle. They have 3 or 4 different strains. But then if you want to go into an extra supportive of the detoxification process time, then you can take a probiotic that is like an intense, right? There's different ones out there in the market, but you can get like intense microbiome support, intense gut support, gut healing, all these different ones. But basically what that really means is that they bring in a lot more strains of different bacteria and microbes in the probiotic. So instead of seeing the typical 3, 4, 6 strains, you can get ones with 15, 20 strains, really high dose probiotics. This can be another supportive way to support the gut. But you have to be careful with a probiotic. If you've got a lot of gut issues like IBS or colitis or Crohn's, you want to go slow and careful. You don't want to just jump up to a big high dose probiotic. You maybe want to gradually increase and see how you do, right? We always want to be nice and gentle and slow in our attempts to support the body and what it's doing. And so jumping right up to one of these high dose intense probiotics may not be the right choice for you. You may want to go slow, maybe jump up to an 8 or a 10 different strain probiotics, see how you feel on that one, work your way through like that, nice and slow and supportive. Digestive enzymes is another fantastic way to support the gut in its function. Digestive enzymes, we make them. Our stomach makes them, our liver, our gallbladder, our pancreas, our salivary glands, our whole digestive system makes these different enzymes and secretes them in response to our foods to help us break them down. But when you're, in a toxic state or things are sluggish and slow, then maybe your enzymes are not being supported and excreted at that level that's the norm or that what our body needs. And it's always nice to take a digestive enzyme to give your body that little bit of extra support in what it's trying to do, takes a bit of the pressure off the gut, lightens its burden, and lets it kind of catch up and get everything back to normal again. So a digestive enzyme can be a really, really supportive thing to take. You take digestive enzymes, after your meal or before your meal, but with a meal basically, and especially high protein meals. That's where the extra support is really, really felt by the body, right? So that's really good. And then the last supplement that I love for supporting the gut is something called berberis. There's lots of different gut support supplements out there, but when you see a gut support with berberis in it, it's a great one because berberis is one of those herbal supplements that is a super digestive support. It does a lot of different things in the body. The first thing it does is it really supports all of the digestive functions and takes away, addressing things like constipation, heartburn, even diarrhea, right? Gas, bloating, all of those different things. So berberis is used and indicated in any of these areas. It can increase the bile flow. It can increase the secretion of different digestive enzymes and things like that in the body. It can help blood sugar balance. So we know that when you have an imbalanced blood sugar, that can also have a negative impact on the microbiome. So another thing berberis does is it helps you maintain a stable blood sugar, which in turn supports the microbiome. What else have I got here for berberis? It also helps support a healthy gut lining. So the gut lining, as we talked about earlier, is that kind of layer inside of the gut that allows the nutrients to be absorbed into the bloodstream. But when it's not healthy, sometimes too many big particles can come through and we can get other kinds of reactions in the body. So berberis is supportive of this healthy, strong, intact gut lining that allows us to absorb our nutrients. Next, I can't even read my own writing here. Sorry, guys. It supports healthy intestinal motility. So intestinal motility, as we talked about when I discussed movement earlier, is when the gut kind of squishes and squeezes and forces things down through it at a controlled rate. Not too fast, so we're able to absorb and digest properly, but not too slow so that things get backed up and we can become constipated. So we want to have a nice, smooth digestion, a nice, smooth motility through the gut to allow the most efficient type of digestion that we can have. So berberis is really supportive of this. It's really interesting. It's indicated for diarrhea and constipation. And you may wonder, how is that possible? The two are pretty opposite, right? Diarrhea is when things are going through way too fast, and constipation is when things are going way too slow. So it's really interesting how some of these herbs work. And this is the magic of Mother Nature, These plant medicines have a really interesting way of working synergistically with the body. So when something is synergistic, it means that it helps bring things back to center. So if you're more one way, it can bring you back. If you're more the other way, it can help bring you back. So, whether it's constipation or diarrhea, berberis has the effect of synergistically bringing you back to that central type of balance where you've got the proper rate of motility through the gut. So it's really interesting how it does that. But Mother Nature's pretty cool in how it knows, How does it know? I cannot tell you how, but it's just the balance that it helps the body find. So berberis is a great, great supplement for that. Once again, just as a disclaimer, if you are thinking about going on a probiotic or an enzyme or even a supplement like berberis, talk to your healthcare practitioner first and make sure that you have no, conditions or medications that could interact negatively with it and cause any problems for you. I know for berberis, it's not indicated if you're pregnant or breastfeeding because the berberin is the compound inside the berberis that really does the medicinal actions. The berberine can pass through the breast milk, it can pass through the placenta to the baby, and maybe the baby does not need that. You know what I mean? And the dose for a baby would be completely different than the dose for an adult. So that's a really good example of why you should check with your healthcare practitioner before you start any new supplement, just to be safe. So yeah, those are some of the things that you can do to support the gut. But generally speaking, eating a clean diet is so key. That whole food diet, staying away from processed foods and processed meats, chemicals and supplements, chemicals and additives and all those types of things. That's really, really important to stay away from. And then the big one too for the gut is try to stay away from sugar. Sugar is one of those things that directly impacts the microbiome. Eating sugar feeds the bad guys. That's all that I know, right? It supports the pathogenic microbes that can be in our gut. And so when you eat a lot of sugar, the bad guys get fed what they want to eat and they start to increase in numbers, and then you start to get more and more digestive issues. So if you can keep sugar out of your diet, I'm talking like processed sugars, white sugars, chemical sugars, all of those things. If you can keep that out of your diet, you're really taking a big step towards keeping that microbiome balance that we're looking for. There are some healthy sugars, honey is amazing. Maple syrup is amazing. There's tons of different, healthy, natural sugars that are found out there. So giving up sugar doesn't mean staying away from all sweet things, right? There's natural sugars in fruits and vegetables. Like those things work with our body. We take them in as whole foods, but our body recognizes them. Our body knows what to do with them and how to use them for its own health. It's the chemical sugars and the white sugars. Those are the things that our body just doesn't know what to do. The bad guys flourish from them, the bad guys in the microbiome, and the negative effects are just so immediate. And, it's a really good move for you if you want to support your gut health and support the detoxification to try to stay away from those sugars. So I think that's all I have for you today. There's lots of things you can do, and gut health is what we are really talking about here inside this group. So, supporting that detoxification is something that really, really happens when you do take care of your guts. So I hope you found this informative, and I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my snow day now and rest up for a big shovel session this evening. But I'll see you back here tomorrow, and we will do, tomorrow we're doing kidneys and lymphatic system. So there's some more systems in the body that we can support to support the detoxification process. Hey guys, hope you liked it. Take care. Talk soon.